Think about it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, and I think two things: ball security. I did see a stat during last week's game that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league with pressure. But I think some of it is he dumps it down so much. Like all he does is like, and today was a prime example.
Yeah,
it's a check down. But then when he does get pressure and he flushes, his ball security is terrible and he fumbles all the time. So I don't know that I'm going to put much of this on Cousins. I mean, I put some of that on Spielman and Zimmer when you finally get your franchise quarterback and then you run out of, league worst offensive line. You can't do that when you have a quarterback that can actually make some plays down the field. You got to protect him.
The only thing I don't like though is the constant taking the sacks. Like throw him a couple away. Like I mean, now granted. Okay, so you would say, all right, well, maybe not the reason you don't want to take a couple sacks is you get pushed out of field goal range, and for our team, that's anything from about the goal line out. So that's not necessarily the reason to not take the sack, but I would just like him to be a little bit more aware. And then, as you said, I mean, if he's just going to dump it to the guy in the flat anyway, then I don't know why we're holding on to the ball anyway.
Well, in 4th and 10 with a game on the line.
Yeah,
I don't care if you hold it, if you scramble and you get strip sacked. Like, that's fine. If you're trying to make a play because you're going to hold the ball and wait for Thielen or Diggs to get open past the first down with the game on the line, do it then. But this check down stuff on 4th and 10, like you have no chance.
Right.
You need Laquan Treadwell to break a tackle and run 7 yards.
Right.
That's not
which he's never done. He's never done that in his entire career.
Right.
And that's the 12% of the time he actually catches the ball.
Right.
Okay, so here's a question for you. We saw the Vikes play the Patriots. We saw the Wild play the Leafs. Both the Leafs and the Patriots are, in my mind anyway, contenders in their respective leagues this year. Based on one game, right? One game for each team. Which of the Wild or Vikings do you feel is closer to contending?
Well, it's closer to contending
right now, right? Measured against a true contender.
Well, I would say I think the Wild for sure, in my opinion, because I felt like they outplayed the Leafs for the majority of that game. The Vikings, I just didn't. I thought the Patriots were the better team today by far. Mm-hmm. The Wild, another reason is the Wild have a full season ahead of them. Or I don't know, maybe 2/3 of a season ahead of them. Right. Whereas the Vikings are, they're in basically playoff mode now. They have to win out.
Right.
So at this point, the Vikings season is do or die. And the Wild, that loss against the Maple Leafs it wasn't the end of the world for them. And I thought they played better than the Maple Leafs, other than their finishing ability. I thought they played better than the Maple Leafs for the majority of that game. So I'd go with the Wild. What do you think?
Yeah, and it's a stunted question, right? Because it is only one game. Yeah. But that's why I thought it was interesting, is because thinking about it, I actually came up with the same answer, which is surprising to me on one hand, because I guess, in the sense that I was surprised that I thought the Wild was closer to contending than anybody, but especially the Vikings. And on the other hand, I guess it's kind of the reason why I'm feeling relatively calm, despite being on a 3-game losing streak in the case of the Wild.
Yeah, and I think with the Wild, we've seen it before, right? Like, we've seen them go in the tank and come back out of it with the same group of players. And I think a lot of that's just more of their team. Yeah. Like, when you asked the question, I thought, geez, how would I have answered this the first week in October or the second week in October?
Right.
Yeah, I'd have said the Vikings for sure. They're a Super Bowl contender. And now, like I texted everybody today, I almost wish they missed the playoffs and we can go get a freaking offensive lineman. I just don't trust that Zimmer and Spielman won't take a D-back with the 15th overall pick if they get it, or the 20th overall pick, So, and if they did and lost, they're both going to lose their jobs next year.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conundrum, I guess, with these two teams right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also sort of funny to suggest either of them's contending, but that was the exercise. So, all right. A couple other hockey notes. Kovalchuk out 4 weeks. This guy has been an absolute disaster. He signed, Tony, $6.25 cap at this season and 2 more seasons.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I want the Kings to have to eat the whole thing, but here's what I'm worried about. They said on the shelf for 4 weeks, and he's put out in 25 games, 5, 9, 14 in his line, but a minus 13. He's getting 17 minutes ice time this season. I think it was a stupid signing. I think he got way too much money to come back. He loves it, but this to me is why this type of veteran move is always going to be suspect. And and what you can get away with if you're a high end player in the KHL is definitely not what you can get away with even as a high end player in the NHL.
Well, I think, I don't know, the warning flags for me were coming up like when he said he was coming back, and then he said, well, I want to come back and play in Southern California or Florida or something like that. Well, yeah, when I want to retire and not have much to do in my life too, I'd love to live in those places, right? So, like, why would you pay somebody that kind of money to go in those climates? And the guy essentially is basically telling you, I'm going to come live the high life.
Yeah, I'm going to retire to your team.
Right. Like I don't know. Like I think they get what they deserve with that whole deal. And, but I mean, part of it, like, as you're asking the question, I was thinking to myself, would I trade Suter or Parise right now for him? And you wonder, you wonder if the Wild would pull the trigger like that and take on the contract they don't want, and ship a contract that we don't want. But
you know what? I would do it just to have 5 fewer years of those guys on the books or whatever it is. 4 fewer years at that point.
Right. And you probably have to do it with Suter. If you did it with Parise, you might have a mutiny at the X. But, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting thought as you were asking the question. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. And the Kings already have Hagelin with a $3.75 million cap hit on long-term injury leave.
Right.
Which is
so they can't put him on a.
Oh, I don't know.
They can't put.
Can you have more than one? I don't know, but and they're pretty beat up. They've got 3 or 4 other players already on regular injured reserve, but still. So here, another factoid, interesting factoid about the Kings. Right now in the NHL, according to Cap Friendly, the Kings have the 7th least amount of cap space available. Least.
They're in trouble. Yeah.
And they're like the 3rd worst team in the league. They 7th least amount of cap space. Like that
Can we move to the Pacific instead of the Central?
That is right. That is a absolute failure from the front office this season.
Yeah, good. I mean, and it sounds like they're in trouble the next few years too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure. Put together a bad, expensive team. I mean, what are you doing? That's just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I got one better for you though. Guess which team has the 3rd least amount of cap space currently? It is the St. Louis Blues. Have less than $1 million, less than $700,000 worth of cap space available right now.
Well, and how, like, my God, they're a mess. Like, they're a bigger mess. Well, maybe not than the Kings, but
they got destroyed by Arizona. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, they're an absolute disaster.
Well, I tried to think. I didn't mind Yo as a coach when he was here, and I'm still trying to think: is it him or is it the players that he was dealt with, or just can he not control a locker room, or what's the situation there? Because you look at St. Louis, everybody kind of had them pegged this year, didn't they, as a team that probably was going to maybe compete better than they did in the last few years, and
everybody except Boudreau. I mean, Boudreau called it at the fair, right?
Right. Well, and Bruce just seems to get 100 points every year, no matter what.
No matter what happens, yeah.
Right. So I don't know. That guy's a pretty good hockey mind. Maybe we should start listening to him. But until we get to the playoffs, then we may maybe start listening to somebody else. But I mean, yeah. Wow.
So there's some, I mean, you've got a decent spread here of
where are the Wild on that whole thing? Do you have it in front of you?
They are, hold on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. But where the Leafs have, where the Blues have 666,000 in cap space, the Wild has 3.61 million in cap space.
Huh.
I mean, so it's a pretty steep curve, in other words.
Right.
The team with the least amount of cap space is the Sabres, which is kind of, but at least they're playing better.
Right. How about them? I mean, I haven't seen any of their games except the Wild games, but
they're fun to watch.
Smokes, yeah,
and they are absolutely in the zone. I mean, they believe right now, which that goes a long way.
How's Eichel? Right, it's their young stud, right?
Yeah, he's doing fine. I mean, I'll see if I can pull up his numbers, but he's coming along. And the thing is, they've finally surrounded him with enough that I don't think the pressure's on him nearly as much as it has been in his first couple of seasons. So this year he's played 27 games. He's got 32 points, 527, 32. He's a plus player. I mean, he should be on a team this good, and he's playing just a hair under 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Middlestead. Let's see. Casey's got where is he? 27, 459. So it's a reasonable rookie season. He only gotten 6 games last year, so this is this. I'm sure he's still Calder eligible. By the way, he's shooting 10.3%, just a hair under Zucker.
Yeah. Wow. So maybe he's got room to grow, I guess.
Yeah.
But good for Palmer and Scandella too. I like those guys well enough to, and Larson, yeah.
But definitely Scandella. I never had a beef with Palmer. He just stopped being able to score when he was here.
Right. But Scandella was always a great dude, good in the community, all that fun stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Only ever good things about him. Happy for him that he's in a winner here. Guess who's 7-3, by the way, in their last 10 games? Which Minnesota team is 7-3 in the last 10? It's the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I know.
What the hell?
And you should I've watched more games than I thought I ever would have, just to kind of see. I literally turned them on just to see what it's going to look like without Jimmy. And they actually enjoy playing the game now.
Unbelievable.
You watch him with Jimmy, and everybody, it's like going to a funeral. And now you see it, and Cat's having fun, and Covington. I mean, I don't know. He's a better version of what Jimmy Butler tried to be here.
So a few episodes ago, you said that it would take $1 million to get you to go to a game. Are you still feeling that way?
Now I'd probably go if the tickets were free, but you wouldn't have to pay me to go anymore.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
We're getting better. It's warming up quite a bit.
Do you know if attendance has picked up?
It doesn't sound like a ton, but a little bit.
Okay.
They had one game where it was just abysmal, but it was, I forget, there was something else going on, and so I don't know. I think it's picked up a little bit, but it seems to start. I mean, even I wonder what Jim's numbers are on the Krasinski show, because it seems to me that people are starting to get a little more excited about him because of the 2 new guys, and Tibbs isn't cussing and swearing and screaming on the sidelines anymore, and Cat's starting to play. I mean, the problem is Wiggins is Wiggins. He's still
wow.
I mean, he's had some games where he didn't. He had the game where he was 1 for 15 shooting and
right
1 rebound and 3 assists or something. Where Covington was the same, but he had 11 rebounds and 9 assists. Right, so.
Right.
And he had a plus something defensive rating, so at least he wasn't shooting well, but
he contributed.
At least he was doing the other stuff, and Wiggins just is Wiggins, Yeah. So it'll be they're just, that whole Wiggins deal is an interesting thing. They gave him the max deal before they really knew he was a max player,
Yeah. Another fine move by the leadership of the franchise. Whatever. Okay, so hey, Gopher basketball, women's basketball. It keeps on rolling. Gopher women's
undefeated.
Volleyball is, again, it shouldn't be surprised, but in the tournament. How are the men bouncy ball kids doing?
The men are average. They lost 1 game. They lost to Boston College. They didn't play very good at all. Their point guard play is iffy. They had to move Coffee over to point guard because their supposed stud recruit from last year just isn't what he is. If they had some point guard play, they'd probably be a top 20 team. But I don't know. They're going to be streaky. They can't really shoot. They're athletic, but they can't shoot for nothing. So they've kind of won the games they should have won so far. Maybe one game they shouldn't have, but the Boston College loss was a tough loss for them. So So what are they, 5-1? 5-1 or 6-1? Something like that.
6-2. They just lost to Ohio